We've been married 36 years, and I can honestly tell you that in 36 years she has never wanted to divorce me. She has wanted to murder me on at least an every other day basis, but she's never wanted to divorce me. We've got 2 kids. I've got a son who's chief resident in a hospital in Oxford, Mississippi. My daughter works for the American Psychological Association as a medical analyst out of Charleston. We live in Batesburg, Leesville. Our ruling elder at Rivercrest Presbyterian Church. I've always been very clear that I was not blessed to be born into a farming family. I wish I had. And in 1999, after getting out and working in a couple of different areas, I went to work for Amick Farms, a poultry processing company in Batesburg, Leesville. I can honestly tell you that entry into South Carolina Ag for me was something that changed my life. I started off as VP of HR, and through 24 and a half years, I led everything from HR to safety to IT, engineering, permitting, regulatory affairs, food safety affairs, all legislative affairs. I ran the processing plants for a time. I ran the live operations for a time. And I was on the mergers and acquisition team. So I look back, and I don't know any other industry that would give me that opportunity. And what I would share with you tonight, when I retired at 59, which I never thought I would retire, but to be able to retire at 59, I knew that I had a debt. And my debt was to South Carolina agriculture. I want to give back because it was such a good industry to me and my family, and that's why I'm running for Commissioner of Agriculture.
Senator Cody Simpson, I'm from right here in the PD. I feel like ever since I was coming over from Columbia, from our prayer breakfast, is that I was coming to a family reunion. So it is good to see all the familiar faces. I am from Clarendon County. I know there's a lot of folks here tonight from Clarendon County, and we appreciate you making the trip over. We farm over there. I'm a 5th generation. We've been farming in the same land since 1904. We understand what it's like to be on our farms and understand what it means to not only get up before sunup, but also work after sundown until the job gets done. And I think that's what you're looking for in your Commissioner of Agriculture. We've done that. I've worked under government master for about 8 years, but prior to that, came to Francis Marion University right here in the PD. I graduated, thankfully, as an undergraduate, but also a master's degree in business administration. So happy to be able to have that under our belt, but we were able to use that when we went over to work for President Trump as the state executive director for the Farm Service Agency at the USDA. And so again, I am so happy to see a lot of faces. I've been on most of your farms that are here because that is what we did at USDA, is work with you all on the fields. So I look forward to being here, looking forward to get to know each of you, and also the issues that you have on your farm are not unique to our farm in Clarendon County. So I am looking forward to getting to know you all and also looking forward to having a great forum. Thank you, Senator.
Jerry?
Senator, thank you for this opportunity to be here. I am Jeremy Cannon. I'm from Clarendon County. I'm from Kirbyville on the north end of the county. I'm a 4th generation farmer. My wife and I are 22 years lazy. We lived there on the farm that my parents, my dad settled there back in '66. They were sharecroppers up until that point, and they finally moved to what I would know now as a home place. We have a son, Blaine, who's 16, who's here, and my mom, Tina, as well. Thank you for coming. But I'm very thankful to be able to have my parents to raise me on the farm. That's all I've ever done. I've got 45 years on our farm. It's what we do for a living. It's our only source of income outside of my wife working for the Christian Learning Center teaching here in town. I found out pretty quickly in 2015 after the flood that what was missing in Columbia was the voice for agriculture. We were not represented. We had the General Assembly and the Governor's Office that didn't understand how agriculture worked, how crop insurance worked. I'm thankful for Farm Bureau. They put me in a position to speak. I was able to do that to 2015, 2016. Help get the Farm Aid Fund passed, providing $40 billion for our state. But it didn't end there. There's still a need. We've seen year after year the lack of education, lack of understanding from leadership in Columbia, and the lack of vision. And that's why I'm running. Because I've farmed my whole life. I have the education and experience to represent farming and agriculture in Columbia, and I'm ready for the job. Thank you.
I'm Danny Lee Ford II. I grew up Coach Danny Ford's son, and so until I was probably 13 years old, I was a tag along. Everywhere I went was on a private plane, and tried to keep up with the football team and travel around the country. I've been lucky enough to go to every football stadium, every state in the country. And then I hit probably about 13 years old, and his occupation changed, and he retired, wanted to spend the rest of his time with his family. So at that time, we made our way back to South Carolina, back to our farm, and you know, as a 14-year-old, 13-year-old, and a man that just retired, we obviously butted heads. So my dad put me in the truck, took me up the road to a veterinarian's place that was very well respected. He dropped me off, and he said, "I don't care what you do, working, don't pay me, but I wanted to learn something." And I was very challenged during that time. They gave me a lot of hard jobs, cleaning stalls, anything that you could think of around the veterinarian's office. After that part of my life, I ended up being very involved in rodeo, traveled the United States rodeoing across the country, collegiate rodeoed, came back to South Carolina, had a great opportunity to get into farming. And when we did that, this summer we lost 24 cows to a blue-green algae bloom in the pond from when we washed all the stuff down from the top of the mountain. And I started digging into it, and I've seen that we are not taking care of our farmers. Our logging industry is at 13 mills in and around the state, lead the state. We've got the only soybean processor in the state, lead the state. And it's really tough on our farmers. We need to work better to get them what they need.
Thank you. We're now going to move on to our main question section. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer each question, as I said before. I'm going to ask the question once, and then we'll work our way around. We're going to start with Cody Simpson. Looking at South Carolina agriculture over the next 4 years, what should the Commissioner of Agriculture's single highest priority be? And what would you do first to move forward?
I think the very first thing that we need to talk about is more profitability on our farms. If we want the farms to be more sustainable, they've got to be profitable. But we also have to have farmland to be able to grow those crops. We've got to have the workforce. We've got to have the young people that are interested in getting involved. If that's working with Farm Bureau and our programs at USDA, or even the state may create some programs to help with our young farmers and ranchers. We've got to have a way forward for our young people, and I don't want to just start in high school. We need to start at a very early age, at 4 or 5 years old, and get back into clover buds that we did back in 4-H, but also work with FFA and encourage and expand their horizon for getting our young folks involved. I think that is the way of the future. Your Commissioner of Agriculture should be an advocate, not an obstacle, and I think that the Commission of Agriculture, the Department of Agriculture, should be that cheerleader, and if you will, of making sure that we bring everybody along, not just one sector. You just heard earlier about forestry and hearing about agriculture, but also our restaurants and hospitality. Everybody is facing the high production cost. We've got to do all we can to bring those down. We've got to work with the President Trump's administration. I was just there last Friday, where the President was announcing eliminations of these disastrous environmental programs, the DEF, as y'all know on your farm, but also the crazy programs that are out there. But I will say, too, the President has just got involved with the EF 15 year-round for our corn. And those are things that we've got to worry about, we've got to start focusing on, and how can we do that right here and process it right here in South Carolina? So I'll leave you on profitability. We've got to do better.
Mr. Kennedy?
I would say that the word that I would use is sustainability. Right now, agriculture, farming, timber, none of it is sustainable. You can't look at a single line item and say, this is a problem, this is something we can keep doing. Things have to change. How do we do that? How do we make, also, we don't have a lot of control. We can go to DC and lobby and try to help pass some bills and work on the input side. But here at home, we don't have a lot of control about that. So things that we can't work on is like how do we raise prices for guys, we say. One way is we can do it through basis. How's basis improvement? We had to work on getting other competitors here, some end users for the crops that we grow. We have to work on our markets. How do we give better access to our farmers to the markets in our state? One of the things that we've lost, recently is Department of Corrections on the produce side. That was something we were selling to Department of Corrections there in Columbia and delivered to all the prisons. They decided they didn't want to do it anymore. It was too much work. So now, all of our prison system is food that comes just imported from other states. We got to get back to creating avenues to sell the things that we can grow really well. We got to be able to sell them. We got to be able to sell them for a profit. So some of the things that I feel like we can do most of is making markets work, getting back to the SE growing, expanding that through infrastructure and all that.
Yeah, so I see it as infrastructure. Our infrastructure is moving out of the state of South Carolina. It doesn't matter if you're talking about forestry, the 18 dairies left in South Carolina, it is all leaving this state. I have a 1 and a 4-year-old, and my 4-year-old looked at me and said he wants to be a farmer. What's the problem with that? Well, the suicide's 3.5 times the national average. We are not keeping our farmers what they need, a level playing field to be profitable. Just like they said, the timber business, it's all moving to Brazil, doing 7-year rotations on eucalyptus trees. We have to give our kids in South Carolina what they need, whether it be farmland infrastructure, with the solar panels, the data centers, the development coming in. Our kids aren't going to have anything else to farm. It's going to be gone. So what we have to do is look at a 10-year, 20-year plan of how we all come together and move our state to a correct place for our kids to have markets for these things. One thing I want to do the day I hit is update the application that the South Carolina Department of Agriculture has. List every roadside stand and market. I'd like for you as a farmer to be able to list your live inventory and consumers to be able to list their wants so we can bridge the gap between locals. Our locals have forgot about where their food comes from. They are driving past some of the best food that South Carolina produces to get to the grocery store. That's all I want to do.
I'd say the best way I can describe the situation is we really don't have a farming problem. We have a business problem. We've got the best farmers in the nation. What's in trouble right now is the internal markets in the state where farmers sell to. So when I look at, as a state, what we've done really well, we've been really great at recruiting what I like to call planes, trains, and automobiles, right? Your BMWs, your Boeings, your tire plants, and those are wonderful blessings, those are wonderful things. We have to be that good at recruiting more agribusiness to this state. I'm talking about processors, I'm talking about the customers of those processors. So we create a whole ecosystem here in the state. I'm the only candidate that has been involved as an executive in purchasing and that process of being recruited. So at AMIC, we bought 2 plants in my time, so from 1 plant, 3 plants. I bought a plant in Maryland and Mississippi. We probably looked at 8 or 10 different plants over the time that I was there. And it was always fascinating to me. I was the first guy to go in and meet with the state, the commissioner, the town folks. It was fascinating to me how some people are really good at recruiting and most of them are not. A lot of people think it's all about the economic dollars. And certainly those dollars are math, they have to math right. But I think the bigger thing, when you're investing, we were investing $100 million, and probably going to spend $100 million after that to get the plant where they wanted. It was a big commitment on our part. What was more important was the relationship of the town, the county, and the state. To know that they wanted us, to know that they were going to be with us and work with us. That's what I want to do day one, is be that great recruiter for agriculture.
Thank you. Diesel fuel is at $5.50 a gallon. Fertilizer has absolutely skyrocketed over the last few years. Some farmers are even having trouble acquiring better yet being able to pay for it. The price of everything is going up, except for one, the price of commodities. They have been down in a slump for the last several years. Where do you see the best opportunity to improve farm profitability and the long-term viability in South Carolina? And what role should the South Carolina Department of Agriculture play in helping producers capture these opportunities? Mr. Campbell.
I think the only opportunity we have is to be able to provide crops to an end user. One of the things that I think we need to focus on is hard markets. You know, we're going to have to create markets where we can sell stuff direct to consumers. We have been in the same pond. We all have fished the same, plant the same crops. We buy from the same companies and sell for the same price. Whatever price the board tells us to sell it. And we don't have any control over that. So we're going to have to create other avenues to either plant some crops that we can sell for a profit. You know, corn and soybeans isn't it. We had the same problem after the flood and hurricane. We can't pay off losses. We can't continue to say, well, these are your options. You plant these crops, and then this is it. We're going to focus on, as Commissioner of Agriculture, is creating markets that provides access for crops that are sustainable. And we don't have to, right now we're told we have to be 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 acre row crop farmer to make it. No, we don't. We have to change. And our change is hard, but there are other crops that we can grow. There's produce, there's cow, there's waste, but we need to make infrastructure. We have to bring in processing here, so where the companies are not buying the same thing imported from other states and countries.
We need a level playing field. You know, right now, if you look at it, you go try to get USDA prime inspected in the state of South Carolina, it's not out there. They say it is, but I've tried. It's not out there. We have got to give our farmers a level playing field, bridge the gap between local. I ran up and down my road. I sell beef to one person on my street. I have to sell it to them on the hook. Nobody wants to buy a cow alive. They want to buy pieces of meat. We have to give them the tools. We have to cut the regulations for them to produce for the community. When I was involved in Helene, it was very apparent that the community can be the fix for all the system's problems. It all lies in your hand. It's just the person in the Department of Agriculture, see, as the quarterback. They have to be able to open it up and let you guys support the farmers, because you're the answer. It's not one of us sitting up here. We can help the situation, but until we come together as a community and support the farmers, it's never going to happen. What do they get right now? 8, 10 cents out of every food dollar? They have completely forgot about the farmer. When I get up there, I hope to do just like I said with the app, to where people can see. We've got I promise you that there is not one thing on the wants list that goes up from a consumer that a farmer doesn't produce. We are speculating January 1st every year. We speculate every time we walk out the door. I'm tired of speculating. I want money coming through the door.
So I think it kind of reminds me of the first question a little bit there, Senator. The issue is, how do you, this is a class in college, I wish I paid more attention to economics. How do you increase demand? And you don't do it with just one processor or one avenue or one option for farmers. That's a monopoly. So we've got to create markets for farmers that they can choose what best fits their business model. I'm a capitalist. I think as a business owner, you should be able to pick what you want to do. So if it's export, it's export. If it's to schools, if it's to poultry, if it's to whatever that may be, I want to give you more opportunities to choose and pick what best fits your operation. That will naturally increase the demand on product, which will increase the opportunity for profit. I think as far as the department goes, how do you do that? Again, you got to be a great recruiter. I think the other thing is the department needs to lean heavier in spaces that are kind of on the cutting edge, right? Things that maybe be on the forefront coming towards the marketplace. To be around those folks and try to see what is emerging, what's coming, and then maybe we actually can get on the front side of that. Maybe not the bleeding edge, but at least close to the leading edge, that we can pull that to South Carolina. This only gets better if we fix the business problem, which is a markets issue right now.
I will tell you, coming off our farm and being able to deliver our soybeans down to the port of Charleston, a lot of people don't realize is that we do have the deepest port on the Atlantic coast. We need to increase our market access is what I believe, especially with our soybeans, with the last processing plant closing not too far in Kershaw. We had 22 plants closed, the forestry mills across the southeast. It's not just South Carolina seeing this problem. You're hearing others, you go to Farm Bureau meetings across the nation. I know there's some on national boards here, they understand it. We're not in this boat alone. So we've got to work together. I call it expand the battlefield and working with other neighboring states. We've got a great port in Savannah for our folks down in that area. We also had a Georgetown port at one time. That was also big in ag exports. We need to look at what we have now, not only for exporting, but also our infrastructure in our communities. The last farmers market was built in Columbia was 2010, but the one prior to that was the PD farmers market y'all just passed, 1989. Our delivery systems need to be updated in South Carolina. We've got to help our people. We've got to understand their problems on their farms instead of the government telling the farmer what to do. We need to be, the government needs to be asking the farmer, what can we do to help you? And if that is creating grants, the Department of Agriculture has an acre program. We also have a $40 million growing ag fund. What are we doing to bring more meat processors here? What are we doing more to bring the soybean processing facility here? What are we doing to help with the poultry processing? Because that is our largest expansion. Poultry has been stated in the 2020 economic report of impact is that it was. But what have we done since 2020? We have no strategic plan. We need a strategic plan. And as your Commissioner of Agriculture, we will implement a strategic plan for South Carolina agriculture.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to the third question. A lot of y'all kind of hit on this with that last one, but as was said, one of the last buying points in South Carolina facilities was commercial. They were an end user. They crushed it. It closed down last year. That sent shockwaves across the entire agriculture community, adding thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars to hauling fees to several farmers to get their beans to market. As Commissioner, what exactly will be your plan to open more and better markets in South Carolina, including attracting buyers and end users, processors, distributors, retailers, restaurants, and all the other end users that are out there for our agricultural goods? What specifically will or can you do to attract them to our state? Yes, sir.
One thing I've heard is that we need to be able to bulk export out of Charleston. They bulk export out of Savannah, and that's about another 2-hour, 4-hour drive there and back for our farmers. So that's definitely one thing, but I think that's part of what's got us into this boat. You know, we bring these big people in here. We need our community to need our farmers. That's where this needs to go. The big four out there, the seed companies, we've been down this road. We've seen how it works. I was at a county council meeting last night, and Duke Power was wanting a tax break on the gas plant they're building in Anderson County. All right? I stood up there and told them, every one of our farmers are being charged peak rates. They cannot turn around and turn a chicken house off, a cotton gin, a greenhouse, a water pivot, We are forced to hit that rate, and it makes us unsuccessful. So I don't think that we should be allowing tax breaks for big industry coming to South Carolina if they're not going to support our farmers. I think that that's what we need to do mainly, is sit up there and let our legislators know exactly what these big industries are taking away from our farmers. Because it's you that's paying the price. It's not the county, it's not the county board, it's you as the farmers.
So I think the theme of tonight must be recruiting, because it goes back to, I think we've got to be great at recruiting. What does that mean? I think that means that the commissioner has to, number one, do a better job. Better doesn't mean that what was before was bad. How do we get better at what we do? That's what you run in business, that's what you run in farming. How do I do this better every season? So I think the commissioner has to be better at pulling the pieces of ag back together. So you've got an organization like Farm Bureau, you've got Ag Commission, you've got commodity boards, you've got all these resources, and sometimes it's just natural human nature for those to be pulled apart. The best way to go recruit somebody is you recruit as a group. They know this is not just one person or one part of the state, it is the whole ag community coming. I learned this when I started going down to the State House 2 years ago. You always want to go with a group. Farm Bureau took me under their wing and they take me with everything because it was a good way to show the seriousness of it. So I think first, the commissioner has to pull those pieces and parts together that we can go and target and approach companies. The second thing, I think, again, I look back at my time at AMIC where we were always being recruited by some state. It could be a greenfield, it could be taking over a project, it could be a brownfield, whatever it is. We were always being recruited. Some were really good at it, some were just, it was just a flyer they would send out. It is all relations. So as a commissioner, I'm not going to sit in that office. I didn't do it at Maine Farms. You don't operate in poultry sitting in an office. You go where you have to go. So as a commissioner, I will be the type that's going to go in those corporate offices, sit down, and begin to talk and build those relationships that we can pull people to this state.
I think it's very important that we focus on our people. Our farmers have been a part of South Carolina's very fabric from the very beginning. It's the oldest profession, foresters and farmers, especially our loggers. I know we have some loggers here tonight. The industry, the loggers don't choose the industry chooses our loggers. I learned that when I was over right down the road at the PD Forestry Commission. We've got to do a better job, again, to keep everything here local in South Carolina. How can we keep from the farm gate to the dinner plate right here in the state? How can we become more dependent on South Carolina's domestic soil than our foreign soil? You just saw that with COVID not long ago. You saw that with, unfortunately, we had the shutdown down at the port with the strike down there. You just saw that recently with the Appaloosa that actually came out and killed our birds, our poultry birds, and they had to decimate them. Well, we had an egg shortage. You saw where all the egg prices went up. Well, South Carolina used to be the capital of the egg production in the not only the country but the world. What can we do to get back, instead of being on the defensive the whole time, we've got to be on the offense. And we're in a game of life. This is a situation where farmers don't have much time left. We've got on day one, we've got to implement the president's initiatives. We've got to work with USDA. There's money sitting there at the federal level that we could be working with our meat processors, our poultry processors. We've got to do a better job of getting it to the actual end user. But for far too long, we have forgotten about our agriculture communities. We've been siloed out, no pun intended. But we've got to bring everybody back to the dinner table. We've got to solve this one bite at a time because, again, we're all rowing the same boat. And as your Commissioner of Agriculture, I have proven that under President Trump at USDA and under Governor Master. That's why they both endorsed us.
Well, I think if I was Commissioner of Agriculture, I would start off by identifying the greatest needs. What are some great products that we can sell, that we grow really well, and then figure out, well, who would the buyer be? And then I'd probably find a number for that buyer, and I'd give them a call. And I'd start discussing how great our land is here. I'd start discussing how great our farmers are here. And then I'd probably try to get a sit down with that buyer. You know, I may even have to get on a plane and go meet with them. I may even have to go out of state, maybe even to Canada. And I get on that plane and I'd go and I'd talk with them and I'd educate them on what our possibilities are here, what we can do, what I've seen, because I've lived it on the farm, I've experienced it, I know what South Carolina is capable of. And I'd convince them to come back here. With the weight of SCDA behind me, Department of Commerce behind me, with the governor behind me, that's what I do. But it's also what I've done. I've already done this. In 2017, I did exactly what I just said. On the farmer dime, not as Commissioner of Agriculture, as a farmer. I got on a plane in Charleston. I flew to Canada. I met with the buyer. And the next morning, I brought back a contract for South Carolina cucumbers. That contract today is worth $5 million in revenue for South Carolina farmers every year. I did that as a farmer. I did the job that Commissioner of Agriculture should be doing, and that's what I'm going to keep doing.
Thank you. Let's switch gears a little bit. We've been talking a lot about row cropping. Let's talk about another form of agriculture real quick. Animals, that's an important part of the PD and statewide agricultural industry, especially poultry. So how does animal husbandry and animal agriculture fit into your vision for South Carolina Department of Agriculture? And what role should that department play in supporting the long-term success of these animal-based industries? Great.
Coming from the poultry industry, I would tell you that you're always looking for someone that understands all the pieces and parts that you're having to control. So poultry, everybody knows it's fully integrated, so we control all the way back before the egg, and we process it and take it to our city all over the world. There's a lot of things that are built into that system that just have to work, just like a fine-tuned piece of equipment. Most people don't understand it, so I think the commissioner can be a proponent and an advocate for that industry of what it really does bring. So at Animal Farms, we purchased, and I was part of this to set this up, we purchased 55% of our corn was local. And we would buy more. In that corn process, we actually helped with other products that the farmer may have to make sure that we can get that corn. To look at that ripple effect from jobs to growers to farmers who are growing corn and soybean, that's a piece I think the commission has to lean into to make sure that the non-pork people understand how that all works together, what it means. It's interesting to be in agribusiness as long as I have. People love us when they first move out, and after 6 months, the sights, the smells, the sounds, they tend to sometimes complain about it. They don't understand what it's really doing. So I think the commissioner, this commission, our commission, would be one that would be involved with the association, be involved with farmers, be involved with the Clemson levels. 2 states in the nation, the state that does not report to the Department of Agriculture for one of those. So we've got to work and partner with those groups to make sure that we're taking care of such a important industry.
Cody?
I think it all goes back to who's advocating for the animals, who's advocating for the cows that we were waking up, even though sometimes they didn't work off our schedule. My dad and granddad are here, and they know many a times that unfortunately Sunday morning we get ready and we head out to go to church, and all of a sudden Miss Brown down the road says, "Oh, Cody, your cows are out." So we go back and take her clothes off, change, and we're running cows. But it really taught me at an early age when I was growing those chickens and hatching them out, and it taught me a lot of responsibility, but also taught me that I knew that egg was going on the frying pan in the house. I knew that it was very important for our animals to have a great habitat, but unfortunately, they're under attack just like we are as people. Their lands being developed, our grazing lands. They talked about these people the other day. They said, well, in order to have more cows, and we'll just put more cows on the land. And I said, no, you're going to overpopulate them. You're going to kill off the population of our cows and dairy industry and our cattle, beef. We've got to do a better job of advocating for our habitats, for our natural resources. We can partner and help the farmers. They are already implementing regenerative ag practices. Why don't we do that to help with the animal industry? We love our animals. I don't know anybody who doesn't love their dogs. I've got one at home manning. But when we talk about our farm animals, and I go on these family farms, it reminds me of the time when we grew our hogs and we barbecued them at Christmas time. But I think that's important to tell other people where their food comes from and how it got there. It didn't just come from a grocery store. It actually came out of somebody's backyard or on their field. So I'm all about expanding where we are. We do have boards. We do have commodities. We got good people. I think some of them serve on 3 or 4 or 5 of them. But it's not that the people are lack of working. It's the lack of us having the markets and the land that we've got to protect.
Sure. We have 30 head of Angus cattle on our farm. And we sell our beef at our market there on the farm. We can sell about 2 cows a month there at the farm that we feed out, processed through Williamsburg package. We have 3 USDA certified inspected locations in our state. The local grocery store, 4 or 5 miles from home, sells 2 head every week. But they're not South Carolina cattle. We really have to work on getting rid of some of the red tape. We have to work on figuring out how to get processing back here. You know, someone was complaining about the prices of beef. Well, one thing to fix the prices is competition. We have several in our state that grow cattle and would love to sell their cattle locally. And would love to sell their chicken locally. We've done a really good job of certified SC grown on the produce side. We've done a terrible job of certified SC grown in the poultry, beef, and pork industry. I want to expand that and put more of our, it's going to take processing, it's going to take infrastructure, but we're going to put more of our animals into our food supply in our state. And that rising tide is going to lift all ships, because the more animals we grow here, the more feed we're going to need, which is going to cause more competition for the grains that we grow. So we're going to fix it. We're going to have to work on our infrastructure and get the process fixed.
Y'all are probably going to have to come grab this microphone out of my hand, because this is my passion. I've been doing this for 30 years, and the last year of my life has been 100% committed to try to figure out exactly what happened to my cows, how to get paid for them. And I can tell you right now, it's a mess. The state vet doesn't answer to the South Carolina Department of Ag, doesn't answer to USDA. They are standalone. If I call them up right now and I say, I want to know what happened to my cows, they'll say, sir, we can't talk to you, we need to talk to the veterinarian. That is so uncalled. We have got to have people come into the large animal vet side. If that cow's worth X amount of money, if we put that into it, we might as well not call the vet. Just let it die. That we sent tests off. We took 5 decrops. There never came back what happened to our cows. We sent secondary testing off. Some of those tests didn't even get to the places that they were supposed to go to. Supposed to go to UC Davis, end up at Iowa State University. Don't know how that happened, but I have dug into that one. We have got to, I asked them, I said, at what point, how many of my cows had to die before you come put a pin around them and figure out exactly what's happened? They said, sir, the price is high, sell it. That is ridiculous. That's not how I was raised. That's not how I was taught to be a husbandry livestock person. I was taught to tend to business, get out there, figure out what's going on, be involved. We didn't even get one of the decrops back. Don't even know what happened to it. Took 3 to UGA, took 2 to the state vet in South Carolina. You know, there is so much liability for them. They won't tell you what's the matter with the cows. They won't tell you what's going on. Tell you what killed them. They're afraid of a lawsuit or something else. It has to be dead on at what killed those cows.
Thank you, sir. All right, moving on, we're going to switch gears one more time. Let's talk about forestry. South Carolina forest sector has been a major part of our state economy, and it has taken a while over these past few years. We have had several mill closures across the state, one right up the road here in Darlington, from downtown Darlington, Canford, North Showtown. Several have curtailed and have sharply reduced the amount of wood they are buying. What role should the Commissioner of Agriculture play, working with our other state leaders, to fix this issue we are having inside of our forest industry? Jody?
Well, first off, I want to remind folks is that it used to be agriculture and forestry, and someone created this title, agribusiness. Well, I think when they created that, they somehow forgot about forestry. I think forestry, again, is the number one in agriculture. If you look at agribusiness as you form them together, at $22 billion impact on South Carolina. You date back to the 1700s, it's how places like Kingstree was named because of the king's trees that they were sending back down the Black River and going over to Europe. I think the same thing needs to happen now, is that we've got to look at opening up new markets. If that's working with the, unfortunately, for bad policy that the EU has, why don't we work with the Trump administration to say, if you work on the fumigation, we'll provide the actual timber, and we'll chop it up, we'll make it in bulk shipping, we'll send it out of our port, we'll get it to you quicker than anybody else in a turn of a dime, because our port is the deepest. And oh, by the way, it was deepened because we used the funding from the taxpayers, you all, us, to deepen the port for more ag exports. And I think it can handle it. I think forestry, again, people need to understand, like the plant there in Darlington, the one down in Georgetown, it's not just the plant. It is the people who are affected by it. It is the communities. You go back and you look at it, and I've always said this, what makes our communities are our farms, our forests, our schools, and our religious centers. And that is very important that we've got to keep them intact, because they're going to develop paradise if we don't get a market for our trees. I'm talking to landowners every day, the high prices on property taxes it's causing. And so we've got to work and create new markets, and again, for our forestry. But as your Commissioner of Agriculture, just like I was on the Forest Recovery Task Force under Government Master, and we passed and we implemented having someone that's designated at your department, at Forestry Commission, to create market access. So we're going to continue to do that as your next Commissioner of Agriculture.
As a child, I remember going to Surfside during the summer with the family, and Mom and Daddy were always they want to take back roads. We're going to take the back road, that's the only way we can go. And going through Georgetown, and every time we went through there, oh, the smell, it was hideous. It was terrible. For us, it was terrible. But for the ones that lived there, it was life, it was money, it was income. It was their family. It was their future. I went through Georgetown to a meeting about 2 months ago, and the smell was gone. And that hurt. Because I understand what that meant to all those families. It was their future. You know, if we want to follow the same channels and export everything we grow, that's great. That's fine. That's putting us in the same box. I think sometimes you've got to think outside the box. We've talked about issues with power, electricity. There's options through cogen plants to use these same chips that have no home. The paper mills are not coming back. Brazil can grow it 7 years. We can't compete with that. So we're going to have to find something else to do with these pines, this wood for the first 15 years. But we can take these same chips and build cogen plants, 301 corridor, and we can power homes with our pines. That's outside the box. But sometimes you need someone who's willing to not just status quo. We're status quo the timber industry to death. If we don't change, it's going to be just like textiles. I'm the person that's ready to try something new.
So I've dug into the timber industry pretty good. Just like I said earlier, we had 13 mills in around the state of South Carolina, moved to Brazil, all international companies. Why are they moving to Brazil? They're doing 7-year rotations on eucalyptus trees. We have not had a paper mill built in the United States since 1980. Well, there's been a lot of research done, surely on paper, hasn't it? All of our universities and everything around has done just research paper after research paper about how to make the most efficient thing. All that knowledge is headed to Brazil. They're building the best plants you can imagine now. They say they are really something. And Jeremy's right. They say they won't come back. But I have heard one thing that can happen is we can export. If we get bulk exporting out of Charleston, then we can't export. From the way I understand it, Europe is the main exporter for these chips. There's only one problem. They won't take our preservative. But we take that exact same preservative here. We have to give our farmers, our ranchers, our agriculture people a level playing field all the way across the board. If they're doing something over there and they won't take it, we don't need to take it from them. That doesn't make sense. We have got to work together and go through the steps and shut them down if they're shutting us down. Thank you.
I think, and some of this goes back to recruiting, so I think you've got to be a great proactive recruiter, but I think if I really look at what happened and what could have been done differently, we've got to be great at proactively retaining what we have. And again, it goes back to the word that I've just learned in businesses is critical, and that is the relationship. So, for example, a plant we bought in Maryland would have been closed in 6 months. We came in, not only did we buy it, we upgraded stuff. The Commissioner of Agriculture for Maryland met with us once a quarter. He would come by the plant, he would always want to take a tour and listen and talk to folks. And he would literally get to the point where he's saying, what else do you need? How are you doing? Where are your roadblocks? Where are your speed bumps? What are the things that are starting to bother you? Maryland is very similar to California. You talk about regulation. I mean, it was bizarre the amount of regulations they had. We knew we had somebody that wanted us to stay. He wanted us to be there. There were times he helped us through things. So I think I look at how we got where we got. You know, as processors get bigger and grow, you know, it becomes a number on the spreadsheet. And sometimes those companies forget the humans, they forget the people, they forget the farmers, they forget what's doing in the communities. What I've learned in business is that's critical to go and be with those people who are already here. Make sure they know how important they are. I'm just trying to aim it. I think it's probably 100 years now. How many times did the state come and say, what do you need? And I always look at how they go outside the state and ask them. How many times do they come to relate it and try to find out how to help us? So I think that's the one thing I would do is proactively recruit, but you proactively retain what you've already got.
We've been talking about a lot of the agricultural farm side of what the commissioner for our state will do. But the commissioner now leads a department that not only just promotes agriculture, but it oversees the major food safety and consumer protection responsibilities for the state after the break of the year. What leadership and management experience best prepares you for running this agency and will keep it responsive not only to the farmers of our state, but the people of the state as a whole? I'm going to start this with Jeremy.
Well, I would say I'm just a farmer. I don't really know. I've only been the CEO of a business and the CFO and the bookkeeper and the accountant and the machinery operator and public relations guy, human resources, hiring and firing. I've been on the shovel end. I've been head of farmhouse gap audits for our farm. I feel like being a farmer is not just a farmer. You do every role that everyone has to do. I feel like most of the roles in the department I've done have been on my farm. I've done them, I've looked at the balance sheets, I've looked at profit and loss statements. I've made decisions that were not in the budget, decisions that impacted my job, my employees' job, their families. I've lived it all, I've experienced it all. So when I think about every role, one thing that we do on our farm, I don't ask anybody to do something that I'm unwilling to do. So that I've lived it, I feel like my experience on the farm doing all the tasks, they're just similar tasks. It's just under the department head. And I'm prepared for the job.
In answering this question, I'll just tell you how I feel about it. I don't think it was that big of a mistake to put the restaurants under the South Carolina Department of Agriculture. Where I feel like the mistake was made was taking DHEC employees and adding more to it. So if you have a restaurant that has dealt with that inspector again, it's kind of relevant. It's almost the same. It's where you have these new people that have gotten added onto the system where they see a broke tile or a scuff on the ceiling and they have to put $40,000 into it or repaint the whole ceiling. Extreme amount of money. So, I think it was honestly a blessing if we get the right person in there. What better way to tie these places together, restaurants and farms, than to be all under the same roof and umbrella of the Department of Agriculture. So I think it's a good thing. I think that you have to have common sense anytime it comes to producing food. All right. The problem comes in with your food is when it's exported out to the 4 big packers and then brought back in. You have to use preservatives, freeze, all different kinds of stuff. When's the last time y'all got sick on some deer meat? I never have.
So this is something that I just would say, that I've literally had decades experience with. So the processing operation, if you're processing birds, you will have a federal USDA employee in your plant. Typically for us, it was 8 to 12 people that would be in your plant. And those standards each year, I'll go all the way back when I started in 1999, each year they got higher and higher and higher. The science behind it, the effort behind it, the technology behind it got higher and higher and higher. I oversaw QA and food regulatory safety affairs, so I dealt with those specific inspectors. I dealt with teaching our staff how to interact with them and to hold the same standards. There's also another standard that goes on sometimes in food people don't realize, and that is some of your bigger companies have their own standards. Walmart, Sam's Club, Costco, Campbell Soup, they all have their own standards and they're higher than USDA. So I think the thing that I learned through that process was, number one, I wanted to relate to my USDA inspectors because sometimes if they felt like I was approachable, they'd come and say, I almost saw Bob do this. They didn't wait for Bob to do it, they would come tell me about it so I could go deal with it. So there's some relationship there that I think needs to be built from the department standpoint with the businesses. We want to hold standards. And most of these restaurants are using ServSafe, which is a great program, great training program. We want to hold standards. We want to work with those businesses that they can be successful. I have met with restaurateurs over the last 13 months of campaigning. And the thing they want is they want somebody who will come in and help them. If you look at their turnover, it's very similar to a farm or a poultry operation. It's a lot. So for somebody who can come in and relate to them, build relationships, hold that high standard, but again, work with them to try to help them do their business and keep them successful. That's what the department can do and would do if it was something you could do.
I think the most important part is what's killing our hospitality industry right now is that our inspectors have no uniformity. What they're grading on in the low country is not the same in the upstate. Unfortunately, there's no accountability is what we're hearing within the restaurant industry. Yes, we've got the processing down, but the business side of it, all businesses in South Carolina, we have to remind people we're bringing the people back to their Department of Agriculture, whereas the people that built this country, it's the people that run these businesses. I'm a small business owner as well, and I think that it's 99.6% of all businesses in the state are small businesses, where a lot of those are our restaurants, our bars, our breweries. A lot of our school cafeterias, our food trucks, everything that touches. The Department of Agriculture touches just about every facet of your life. Food safety is very important. You're seeing that under the Make America Healthy Again under Secretary Kennedy. But President Trump also brought in Secretary Rollins over the Department of Agriculture because a lot of people, the bureaucrats, if you will, were trying to implement these policies and procedures where they didn't have the money to pay for it. So there are grants and programs that the state can kick in to help with gap certification, with traceability. People ask, well, why is everything on recall now? Well, it's actually because the President Trump administration is implementing these traceability to find out where this food's coming from. But if you look, a lot of it's coming from out of state, out of country. What are we doing right here in South Carolina to keep our farms farms? We've got to make sure that we stand up for the restaurant owners. We need to just get it outside, just like the farmers losing farmland. Look at the restaurants they're closing. I'm tired of reading in the newspaper. 40, 50-year-old restaurants of families that have been institutions in our communities, pillars that had to close because of liquor liability. They can't afford the insurance. They can't afford the property taxes. And oh, by the way, they can't afford the Department of Agriculture's making them implement new regulations to put a sewer down, even though the Environmental Services said they could. So we've got to stand up for the little man and the little lady.
Gentlemen, that's the end of our first round. We're going to move into our second one. Quick refresher on the rules and requirements for this. This is going to be a lightning round. I'm going to ask a quick question, and each candidate will have 30 seconds to respond. So I'm not looking for major details here. I'm just looking for something relatively quick. The yellow card indicator will mean you have 10 seconds left. We're going to start with Danny Ford. Which sector of South Carolina agriculture offers the greatest opportunity for growth over the next decade?
God, that should have been a long question. That's a tough one. Because I like the animal side of everything, I can vision seeing that being the most exposure that I can give. Just even like I talked about the other day, there's not a school in the state that has a rodeo association or a rodeo team. A lot of different things that bring kids up. So I see that creates the spark whenever the shows and different things.
Same question.
I think it's not just what can be, it's what we have to be, right? I think we've got to be better at our commodities, our row crops, our specialty crops. We've got to find ways, we've got to find ways to build those up because that's a great opportunity for us.
Poultry and beef are the #1 poultry. You can look at the reports that Governor Master and Commissioner Weathers at the time implemented in 2020. Unfortunately, I don't know if much has been done with that report, but if you look at it, we're trying to get our stakeholders to get the state involved to be able to build up and expand those operations. But the way I look at it is our family sells grain to the local Pilgrim's Pride. So the row crop farmer also benefits from that poultry industry. So those are the two. Meat processing is very important.
Chairman?
That's a tough question. I want to say produce, but whatever it is, it's going to be something that is currently in our grocery stores, whether it be produce or beef or poultry. The certified SC grown is the answer. But we're going to have to get, only because there's consumers in our state, we just got to get access to what's grown here to our consumers.
Next question, we'll start with Fred West. What is one concrete step the state can take to help the next generation get started farming?
Prosperity. I learned from growing up the way I grew up, and when I got out, we started building a family. Prosperity at home, prosperity at church, prosperity at work solves a lot of problems. The next generation looks at their parents and says, how can I make a living when they're not making a living? So I think we've got to focus on prosperity for farms that pull them back to the farm because typically they want to come back to the farm.
It's very important for our young people to get involved in agriculture. The average age of the farmer is going from 62 to 67, so we've got a problem in America. It's not just in South Carolina. Carolina, so we've got to invest in our young people. We've got to, the commissioner needs to go and read children's books and encourage them to understand where their food comes from, supporting the local school, the farm, which is right here nearby. But we've got to do all we can to inspire these young people to get involved, because they're going to be our future leaders. That's what we did at 4-H when I was involved. I still am a proud 4-H member.
Commitment to ag. We know times are hard. They've always been hard. But as families and as farmers, we have to be committed. If we are committed, if we show our commitment, it drives our kids, our families' commitment. It is worth it. It is worth it to put our farm in the farmland trust. That's what we're doing with our land. Because the money would be great to sell it, but to save it for ag and save it for future generations, that's what means the most.
Oh, everybody in here started at one time and they got that spark, that fire in them. And that's what I look for. Programs, just like I said, I grew up high school rodeo. You wouldn't believe the kids that we have involved and the success that South Carolina has had at the national level of high school rodeo. And there's absolutely no other things for them to do after high school. When they go to college, they look out west and they load up and they go, and that's where we're losing our kids from. So we need different programs implemented, whether it be 4-H, dairy, different things, to get these kids a spark.
And begin this next one with Cody. If the state could make one new investment in agriculture, where should it focus first? Farmland preservation, market development, agricultural research, workforce development, or something else? Where should the state focus first?
If I was talking to the genie, I'd want all of them. But I would tell you right now, is our land protection is very important. Right now, China-owned Chinese communists have 800 acres in South Carolina. They're taking it out of ag production. Solar, data centers is taking up our land. We need to invest in our land protection. We need to support our Farm Bureau Land Trust, the only one in the nation. We need to support the PD Land Trust, who's been doing it much longer. I'm a proud member. But we've got to support those programs, because our farmers, when they get out of college or they come back from home, they won't have a farm if we keep this up. So we've got to do all we can to protect our land.
I think it's market development. If you give farmers a way that they can grow a crop and earn a living, then they'll keep the land. You'll give opportunities for families access to things that we grow, and their opportunity to have the healthiest, best food supply anywhere or none. So I think markets is number one.
I'm sorry. Sometimes this thing hit me, right?
My apologies. If the state could make one new investment in agriculture, where should it focus first? Farmland preservation, market development, agricultural research, workforce development, or something else?
Yeah, so we have to have, we have to grow smart. We have to put a team in place to stop. I mean, up in our area, the upstate, I know that we're in the lower coast state right now, but the development is coming in and eating us out of the house and home. Our land's $30,000 to $40,000 an acre. You can't have anybody coming in to agriculture up in our area. 2% of farmers provide for 98% of consumers. My kids have a chance with struggles. Anybody else's kids don't, as far as 98%.
The best conservation you can have is prosperity. Farmers making money, they don't want to do anything else. That's what they're required to do. So I think market development is what I would focus the money on. This is the first time in my career going down to the State House for 20 years. Normally your legislators will come and say, give me one or two things to work on. Now they're coming and saying, what else can we do? They recognize the crossroad we're at and the problem we're at. We've got to do something. So now is the time to really work with the General Assembly to have the money to be able to develop these markets.
This will be the last question in our lightning round. We're going to start this one with Jeremy Cannon. What is one issue facing South Carolina agriculture today that you do not believe gets enough attention?
I hate to beat a dead horse, but it's the problem with importing foods. It is so much I mean, you go to the local grocery store, and we see stuff that's not from out of state, but from out of country. I think we've got to do a better job of promoting SC grown stuff to SC grown consumers.
Suicide rate, 3.5 times the national average.
I think, technology, it ain't, we got the size and scope that we can invest in programmers and technology traffic. So your mid-size and small-size farmers cannot do that. So I think that doesn't get a lot of attention, and that actually can help with input costs and running that business. So I've been working with Clemson and a privately held company in South Carolina State to try to figure out how do we lean into the ag space with technology.
Mother Nature, you see it right now with the drought. Unfortunately, we're under D3 in certain parts of the state. They say tomorrow the drought committee may come out for the entire state. Our water is very valuable. Water, energy, and our land. Those are the three main ingredients. People need to understand that if they want their prices to go down at the grocery store, the farmer's got to be able to provide back at the house. And so I encourage people to understand that, because that's why we need to keep buying local. Every dollar that's spent in that local economy, 67 cents stays. So I want people to know that. I want you to thank the farmer when you get back home too.
Thank you, gentlemen. So we are now going to conclude this with a closing statement from each of you. 2 minutes as before, and we're going to start with Kenny for closing statements.
You know, one more time, I'm going to tell you all this. Y'all hold the power. The community holds the power. You know, the person in this seat up here can make it a lot harder for y'all to get involved with the farmers, but essentially that's what has to happen. We have to saturate South Carolina. We have to bring the kids into farm. We have to do all these things, and we have to think about South Carolina first. After we get South Carolina taken care of, we can expand out into our neighboring states. But there's no reason. When I lived in Florida, it was very common. I used to train horses there for a little while. They would load up the oranges in Florida, ship them to California, have Florida fresh oranges in California. California would turn around and send theirs to Florida. They'd have California oranges in Florida. It doesn't make any sense. Tearing our roads out. We need to build infrastructure in South Carolina for our people in agriculture so they can get it done right here for the consumers in South Carolina.
So this is a constitutional office. And what that means is the South Carolina voter is making a hiring decision. It's not by appointment, it's not by endorsement, it's not by birthright, it's not by what your family does, it's not a coronation. Right? You're getting hired for the job. In my career, I've literally hired thousands of people. And you learn very quickly, you never hire based off the job title. You always hire based off the job description. And these men on this stage are good men who are passionate about ag. There's no doubt about it. I respect them all. I'm the only candidate that has decades of experience as an executive running a complex agribusiness in this state. That's what I will bring to the Department of Agriculture, that business experience to run that agency well. The role of Commissioner of Agriculture is the chief executive of that agency that now has almost 300 people in it and serves every citizen in the state. It demands and it deserves somebody who has experience as an executive.
I did this very job similarly at the federal office at USDA Farm Service Agency. I was appointed by President Trump prior to that, working for Governor Master. We implemented the policies and procedures, and we cut the red tape. We've proven that. We've gotten the resources out to the farmers. Not only did we get the actual programs, but we also helped with the loan-making capabilities, because farmers are in need of cash quick. If they need to buy land, we can help them with that. If they need to create cold storage, we help them get the loans to be able to create and buy cold storage facilities, or grain with the grain elevator just closing. A lot of people didn't realize Kershaw closing. Well, a lot of our farmers, including us, we were holding our grain there. Well, we needed access to grain storage. We did that at the Department of Agriculture, USDA, and that's certainly what we're going to bring, the common sense approach to your South Carolina Department of Agriculture. Our commissioner's been there for over 20 years. This is a once in a lifetime, every 20 years that we get to elect our Commissioner of Agriculture, which, as you just mentioned, first time in history gets to regulate the hospitality industry. This is the first time that we are, in my lifetime, really, that we're able to do it. So we've got to get it right. We've got to have someone who understands from the ground up, not from the top down. Someone who has the experience on the farm, not only from behind a desk, but also who's been out on our farms and has lived and breathed it every day. I was just there putting corn in the ground this past weekend with my dad and my granddad, who I looked up to them immensely because of the work ethic that they've taught me. They've always taught me that we start work together, we end work together. And that's what I encourage people to know about me, is that when I'm in there, just like President Trump did not lead that man, those two men overseas, and he came for them, it's exactly who I am for you. I'm your farmer, I'm your family farmer at heart, and I'm not going to leave you on the field. I'm going to always be there for you, because that's where I'm from, and that's the house and the home He built me.
The Commissioner of Agriculture, South Carolina Department of Agriculture is run by a program, and the vision comes from its leader. It doesn't come from Trump. It doesn't come from McCaskill. It doesn't come from Hugh Weathers. It's going to have someone who's been there, who's lived it. It's going to be my plan. It's the Commissioner's plan. It's someone who's seen it every day. I've seen it 45 years. Not just on my farm, but on all kinds of farms throughout the state. I've visited. I know friends all throughout the state who talk, and I've learned a lot. I do have a degree from South Carolina Department, South Carolina USC, USC. But I also got a degree from Nebo School of Agriculture and a bunch of other schools of agriculture from farmers all throughout the state. I know what our state needs because I've lived it, I've experienced it. And that's what we need in our next commissioner. Someone who knows what the problems are, but also can identify what the solutions need to be. That's where I think I fit as your next commissioner.
Thank you, gentlemen. I would like to say thank you to all of our candidates for being here tonight, participating in this forum. Thank you as well to South Carolina Farm Bureau, all of our volunteers, our timekeepers, everyone who has worked hard to put this event on tonight. At this time, I'm going to turn the program back over to David DeWitt.
Thank you, JD. We appreciate it. While we're still here, Sean Blanding, our Democratic candidate for Commissioner of Ag, has gotten here. He had a little difficulties, but we're going to let him come up and introduce himself to you and tell a little bit about him. And since he's only getting this, we're going to give him a few more minutes than the 2 minutes to give his little talk, and then we'll be back. Sean, welcome.
Good afternoon, y'all. Let's try this again. Good afternoon.
Good evening.
There we go. Thank you all so much to the Farm Bureau for hosting this event, the PD region, for allowing us the opportunity to come and share our vision and our reason for running for Commissioner of Agriculture. As David said, I'm Sean Blanding. I'm the candidate for Commissioner of Ag. Before I get into more about who I am and my purpose for running, I did want to just thank, again, the PD Farm Bureau for hosting us, and then also to you wonderful candidates. Thank you all for taking this leap of faith. I, as a candidate, know that this takes boldness and courage to step up and lead. And so thank you for taking that step. I just wanted to express gratitude to all of you as well for being here today and to hear our perspective and our insights and vision. As David said, I'm Deshaun Blanding, Commissioner of Ag candidate from the Silver community in Clarendon County. I was born into agriculture in a way that was very disconnected. My grandfather was a fourth-generation farmer, passed on, received the land from his great-grandfather, who started our farm after enslavement, was able to start a small farm that grew into a 400-acre farm. And that stayed in our family for 4 generations. But like so many families, not just in South Carolina, but across the nation, we're seeing so many family farms begin to die out. And in 1993, after my grandfather passed, We actually sold all of our livestock and equipment, but we held onto that land. And so I always say that I didn't get to grow up on the farm. I grew up where the farm used to be. But I've been working for the past 10 years on national agricultural policy. I've been trying to help people see how agriculture is not just a business, it's not just industry, but it is a human right. It's food, fiber, and fuel. It is what sustains us in our lives. And taking that conversation to the national platform, to the national level, is what I spent the last 10 years doing. We've, in South Carolina, improved equipment. We've modernized when it came to increasing yields and production. But structurally, we have not modernized as a state. We are losing processing facilities at a rampant rate. We do not build enough depth in our capital, in our credit system, and we do not have the leverage that independent producers need to be able to pass their operations off to the next generation. Too many of our farmers, especially small and mid-sized farmers, I've been hearing and seeing, are doing things right, but dealing with a lot of the consequences of the current political climate, but also the longevity of not investing in the modernization that we need as a state. We got high input costs. We have limited processing infrastructure. I was talking to someone the other day about a packaging plant that recently closed. Not only does that prohibit individuals from accessing infrastructure, farmers from accessing infrastructure, it also limits economic opportunity and growth in that local area. So as we see farmland decreasing, we're seeing people not want to go into farming anymore. We need someone with a vision and a plan to make things better here in agriculture in South Carolina. My vision for agriculture is pretty simple. Expand economic opportunity for South Carolina farmers and our communities. There are 4 parts of our campaign that I'm happy to share more with you about in detail as we have our meet and greet. But just briefly, strengthen our agricultural infrastructure. Increase processing in our state so that we don't have to go hours one way just to be able to get our livestock or our crops processed. Improving market access. How do we actually connect our farmers to institutions like schools and hospitals and other resources that are right here, keep the food dollar right here in South Carolina? Protecting our farmland and supporting resilience. We live in South Carolina, we face hurricanes and floods time after time, and these weather patterns are unpredictable, and farmers shouldn't have to carry that weight alone. The government should be there to support them when there are times of economic disaster or crisis or catastrophes due to weather. And then lastly is about investing in the next generation of agriculture. We know we want to pass our land off to our children and grandchildren and continue that longevity, but the problem is we do not provide the resources for the next generation to take over the farms. A lot of people are leaving agriculture. That's my personal story of my family. But we can do better as a state. And by providing the resources for young and beginning farmers with the capital, training, and technical assistance that they need, we can make the Department of Agriculture a useful place for our farmers, especially beginning and new farmers. And I'll wrap up with this. This campaign is not about partisanship. This campaign that we're running is about people. It's about farmers. It's about rural communities. It's not a Republican or a Democrat thing for me. Agriculture doesn't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. Agriculture doesn't care if prices go, it doesn't care if input prices go up. It doesn't care if farm is on the line. It doesn't care if we're fighting against each other. What they want to know as agriculturalists is we need to be investing and working together to solve our problems. And having worked on the United States House of Representatives and Senate Agriculture Committees, my experiences would bring to this position is one of a problem solver. One who knows how to sit down at the table, talk it out with whoever it may be, and find common sense, practical solutions to make things better. I'm a public policy expert, I'm an emerging farmer, I'm a cooperative business leader, but more importantly, I'm a servant. And that is what I want to bring to this role, servant leadership, to be able to serve all of you and all the folks in South Carolina. So again, I'm not running to keep status quo. I'm running to make things different, to modernize our agricultural systems here in South Carolina. So I'm asking for your support, and as we have the meet and greet, please talk with me, ask your questions. really telling your stories, because I want to know what we can do to make our state better. You've heard a lot of answers tonight, but it's not about who can give the best response. It's about who has the knowledge, the skills, and is equipped well enough to make sure we're moving our state forward. And as the Commissioner of Ag candidate, I believe I'm that person. Again, I'm Deshaun Blanding. Thank you all again tonight. May God bless you, your families, your farms, and our future. Thank you.
Appreciate you being here with us tonight and giving us those words. I think all the candidates, we need to give them a round of applause. We do thank each of you for being here, and we thank you all for being willing to put yourself out here and build this position and giving us your time tonight to share. And we appreciate all of y'all coming and being interested in it. And I know they'll ask you, the primary is coming up in June, so they need your support. I'd like to thank all the county farm bureaus and the PD for stepping up and supporting this event. I'd like to special thanks to Tracy Bullard and the Ferns and the Looks and Robert Hunter getting some folks here, and Faith Truesdale, our director for this district, and all the efforts that they did to make this night happen. Special thanks to Senator Chaplin for being here and moderating, doing a good job with that. And I would like to invite you all now. We'll have, right down the hallway, we'll have a little meet and greet with the candidates. Got a few little snacks back there we can enjoy and just kind of mingle with each other and enjoy some quality time as we get a chance to be informal with the candidates and that kind of thing. If you're not a Farm Bureau member, come on. We do have some membership cards on the table as you go in. We'd love to have you join us. But everybody come on and let's have a good time and just get to mingle with each other. So thank you all for being here, and we'll see y'all down around the corner here. Thank you.